Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm talking about my breastfeeding journey. Now my son is currently 7 months old and I haven't been breastfeeding for a little while now, but I was thinking a lot about my breastfeeding and how emotional it was, and I feel like I've got quite a lot to share about it. So I think I was definitely, I am one of those mums that was like, you know, I'm going to be breastfeeding until my son's 2, like rest is the best. And you definitely get that drummed into you while being pregnant and then after you give birth. And breastfeeding is amazing, like it's incredible. Like I'm still amazed that my body produced milk to feed my child that's like the most complete, perfect food that they could ever need. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I very much went in the intention of like, I'm going to be breastfeeding as long as I can. So when I gave birth, I was very lucky to get that magical moment where Shay was put on my boob and he just literally by himself moved to my boob because he could smell the milk coming out of me and latched on immediately. I mean, it was incredible. I was absolutely in tears, like, because you just like, how can you do this? Like, you're so amazing. Like, I was completely in awe of him. So I was incredibly lucky to latch on quite quickly and to have a lot of milk. Now, I always knew I was going to have a lot of milk because at 3 months, so when I was pregnant, I was already producing colostrum. So I was only 3 months pregnant, and you're not really meant to produce it until about 9 months. So I was getting colostrum that came out, which is the kind of pre-milk. So it's very see-through, thin substance that comes out, which is the first food that your baby eats before your milk comes in. Now I was getting quite a lot of it. I would wake up, my bra would be wet. I was sometimes getting it in the bed when I slept. And then we went on holiday. I would have been about 5-6 months pregnant and I was just leaking colostrum every day. Like I would wear like a bikini and a shirt, and there's something about the vitamin D just made it pour out. So I was like, I wasn't worried about my milk supply, let's say. I knew that they were working. And so anyway, I produced a lot of milk. So my milk came in about day 2. So that was really great, and I felt like I was smashing breastfeeding. I was so pleased with myself. My boobs were massive, the milk was flowing. Shay never dropped any weight, and that's quite unusual. Most babies lose weight within the first week. The midwives were high-fiving me in my appointments because he hadn't gone down weight, he went up weight. I mean, it was all magical. So I really thought, God, I'm this earth mum. I remember wearing like a white dress and like breastfeeding when my friends came around, thinking I'm an earth mother and it's perfect. So fast forward to about 3 weeks in, and that is when Shay's reflux started to appear. So we went down to the Isle of Wight. My family have a house in Seaview, and suddenly he started pulling off the breast. He was not very sure about the breast. He started crying every time he fed, and it was probably one of the most traumatic weeks of my life because there I was feeling quite vulnerable after giving birth, and my child wouldn't feed, and it was really awful. Like I really didn't know what to do, and the worst part of it was that it was coming from me. It wasn't like I was feeding him spaghetti and he hated the brand of spaghetti. It was me. I was the brand of milk that he was hating. So I felt that it was something I was doing wrong. So I started to look into different things I was eating. I cut out dairy, I cut out cruciferous vegetables, all sorts of things that apparently are triggers to reflux, and nothing seemed to help. So weeks went by and it was still not getting any better, and everything was very difficult, and every time I fed it was painful because he would pull off and then latch on hard and pull off and latch on hard. So anyway, I went to see a Latch Consultant called Geraldine Miskin, who is amazing. I can't recommend her enough. She was so great. So she came over and she helped me get my latch back, which wasn't as good as before. She also got me onto nipple shields. So I started putting nipple shields over my boobs, which he then latched on easier. And because I had such a strong milk supply, it slowed down the flow. So the milk would go into the teat and then into his mouth. So that helped loads because I had a lot of milk. There wasn't a night I didn't wake up and my whole bed sheets were soaked. And I'm not talking like a patch of milk. I'm talking like from one side of the bed to the other was soaking. I would have to get about 3 towels by the side of my bed, and every night I would put one and then the next and then the next one. I mean, it was crazy. I think if I was a cow, I would be a Jersey cow, because the milk I was producing was outrageous. It was kind of yellow in colour. It was bright, it was vibrant, it was out there. It was crazy milk. And I mean, in the night when I'd be breastfeeding on one side, my other boob would be leaking so much that Shay's entire outfit would be soaked. So I'd have to hold a little cup on the other side, and I would produce about 4 ounces of milk on one side when I was feeding from the other. So like mental amounts. And I know that sounds really boastful, and I'm not trying to be, because I know so many people find it difficult to produce any milk. But I don't think it was necessarily great because of my fast flow. It was causing Shay to choke, it was aggravating his reflux, and actually it was kind of awful. So I kind of wish I just had a normal type of flow. So then I got into pumping, because I thought, okay, if he's taking to the teat, he might take to the bottle. So I started pumping, and I remember coming home, I remember Kieran coming home, and I was sitting on the couch pumping, and he just walked in and burst into laughter, because there I was, just like this big suction on my massive boobs. And I mean, it was not glamorous. I mean, you're not often very glamorous as a new mum, but this was like, I was pretty much at my lowest point at this point, because I just felt so gross. I was pumping away, and it was great. Like, I produced a lot of milk in the pumping, but it's hard work, you know, because you're breastfeeding, and then you put your child down to sleep, and then you pump, and then you have to tidy up, and then he wakes up again, and you literally do the whole thing all night, all day, all night. It is exhausting, and no one says that being a new mum is easy. I don't think anyone has ever said that, but adding pumping to my day I found really draining. But it was great because he did take to the bottle, and I think I was really lucky that he took to the bottle, because I was using the nipple shields, which were plastic, and then when he went to the bottle, he kind of had gotten used to that teat shape rather than the nipple. So I think in a way I was quite lucky, because I know it can be really difficult to do that transition to bottle. So I started pumping and doing the bottle and breastfeeding and doing a bit of everything, but his reflux was just not getting any better. I mean, there were times, like one day, where he just didn't eat all day long, and it was just so upsetting. So I got to the point where I went to see the doctor, and my amazing GP recommended some medication for Shay to take. Now, reflux comes in different shapes and sizes. Some people can get it a little bit, and some people can get it a lot, and I think Shay was much more on the higher end of the scale, which means I needed to medicate him. And I never thought I would medicate my child, especially at such a young age. I've never been into medication my whole life. If I had anything wrong with me, my mum, we never had paracetamol or ibuprofen or Nurofen or anything like that. I would probably say I've only taken it about 3 times in my entire life, which is not very much, because that was not the way I was brought up to deal with such certain situations. It was always sleep it off, or, you know, drink some hot water and lemon, or have a soup or something like that. So I felt, yeah, I think it was really hard to admit that I needed to give Shay some medication, but it was amazing the change in him when he started taking it. So he started taking his medication, and I was still breastfeeding, but I was starting to introduce some formula as well. And I used a specific type of formula called Neocate, which is prescribed. It's a very anti-allergenic formula, because I wasn't sure if there was anything I was eating that was potentially causing the reflux. And it's so hard to eliminate everything from your diet. Later on now, I've read a lot about the FODMAP diet and how great that is during breastfeeding. So if you're someone that's potentially going through this at the moment, I would look into the low FODMAP diet, because that has been linked to helping with baby's reflux. So going back to my story, so then I was breastfeeding and I started to introduce some formula, and I think it was a mixture of the medication and also going onto the formula, but it really helped Shay's stomach. I think because formula is a little bit heavier, it stayed down in him a bit longer, whereas breast milk is a lot more delicious, definitely. But it's very thin, it comes up very easily. So over a few months, I transitioned from breast to formula, and again, as I said at the beginning, I really thought I would be breastfeeding forever and ended up on formula, and again had like mixed emotions with formula. I felt like formula was bad and it's not what you should give your baby. You should only give your baby the purest, best thing. But it was amazing for him how much better he suited it. So currently he's 7 months and he is having formula and he's now on solids. I started solids quite early on because he was just so hungry and grabbing foods. So I started around 5 months introducing just purees, and now he does a mixture of kind of finger food, grabbing things, and also some sort of mushed up stuff. And I do really miss breastfeeding, I have to say. I think it is this very magical moment. I used to, at the very first weeks, I sort of resented it a little bit later on, but the very first few weeks when he'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, I loved it. It was this like magic moment just between me and him, and he was having a little guzzle and I was just relaxing with him, and I found it very meditative. I think nursing your child, you feel so connected to them and you feel calm and relaxed and it feels right. I mean, obviously when it's not going well and when he wasn't latching right, it was hard and really horrific, but when it was going right, it was one of the best experiences in the world. And if I'm lucky to have another child, I would absolutely love to try and breastfeed again and potentially try and do it longer. But I think what I've learned from it is not to have too much stigma around it, not to feel worried if you choose breast or formula. It really doesn't matter. I think the thing that matters the most is that your child is happy, it's feeding, it's healthy, it's enjoying itself. And I think that sometimes we can really push ourselves to do what's right when we need to do what's right for us and our baby. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear from you what your breastfeeding journey was like. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? You know, it's so important to be sharing these sorts of things. I don't think that we should keep them inside. So leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next time. Bye.